And I found out that Tesla really is the inventor of the hydroelectric power system and the induction motor. And he really predates Marconi in the invention of wireless communication, robots, remote control. And he invented many other things.
They call me a listener, they say that I should start to explore everything. Oh, I may be a listener and maybe I should. There's joy in the message I bring. ShaneTrain, ShaneTrain. I am free and at ease. I record what I please. ShaneTrain, ShaneTrain, ShaneTrain.
Sweet. Welcome to the ShaneTrain. Today, we are going to be discussing Nikola Tesla, which I am very fucking excited about. And we're going to discuss it because there is a guy named Dr. Marc Seifer, and he wrote a book called Wizard, The Life and Times of Nikola Tesla. Before we got him on, I just wanted to banter with you guys why we're doing this.
Yeah.
Insert banter.
Insert banter here.
Banter.
Fun fact, before Tesla, the company, was around, Alex and I vowed to name our first dog Tesla.
Shut up.
But now, we're not so sure.
Do you have a dog?
Not yet.
It's a future dog.
Future dog.
Not sure because you lost hope in him?
No.
Okay.
Just because we don't want, I don't know. You don't want it to be associated with the company.
It's kind of a hipster thing.
It's Alex's favorite scientist.
It's a cool company.
Yeah.
It is a cool company, but you want to name, would you ever name your dog
Just
Chevrolet?
Every time you tell people his name, just be like, it's not the company, it's the guy. That's
Put that on his dog tag?
The guy, not the company.
Okay. Maybe.
I would
We'll
name
see.
my dog Chevrolet. I don't know why that's a bad thing.
Oh, my
Okay.
phone's telling me to eat.
Yep.
I would,
I'll take a sip of this.
you should do like Oldsmobile or something.
Get over here, Olds.
Oldsmobile.
Damn it, Olds.
I heard of a dog called Batman. That was kind of a cool name.
That is cool.
Hey, hold on. Tesla.
Okay.
I just did the two finger. So, why did I dive into Tesla? So, let me know if you guys are on the same page with this. You always knew about him, and you always knew he did some cool shit, but you weren't quite sure what he did.
Yeah.
Mason?
No.
Okay, well, I wanted to find out the cool shit in detail. So, like usual, I just grabbed an audiobook on Audible, and it was long. How long was that?
22 hours.
Yeah, I listened to the whole thing, and I re-listened to a lot in prep for this. And he's a really cool guy. I think we should go into it with Seifer.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's shocking that he's missing from the textbooks.
See, and that's really what I want to ask him. Because even growing up, a lot of it was Edison. It was Edison this,
It was Edison
that,
everything.
Edison everything. And then in an older stage, and obviously prep before we were going to have him on, it's like, no way. Whoa. Why do we not hear about this guy?
It's a weird thing.
And the inventions that he was doing that were successful then, why are we not using now?
Yeah, there's some of that too. We're using a lot of them now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and just how he could almost see into the future
Yeah.
about certain things, the internet, cell phones, wireless towers, things like that.
Yeah.
It's just kind of crazy.
The reason we sent electricity across the country is because of Tesla, because
Yeah.
of AC.
Yep.
Yeah, alternating current is better for long distance than direct current because it. I'll let Seifer explain it. I can do the hand motions, but they can't see this.
They can totally see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But not only AC, like X-rays. all
Yeah.
that kind of
Radio,
stuff. Laser.
he was going to harness the world's magnetic power, I believe.
Yep.
He was
Yeah.
going to send wireless through the earth,
Yeah.
wireless power. Wardenclyffe's awesome. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
We should probably just get the guy on. Dr. Seifer,
Yes.
we've got you. All right. So I've already kind of introed why we're diving into Nikola Tesla and your book, which is called Wizard, The Life and Times of Nikola Tesla. Can I call you Mark?
Yeah.
Cool. Let me just tell the listeners a little bit about you, and then we will dive into some good conversation. So, Dr. Marc Seifer is the preeminent authority on the life and times of Nikola Tesla, as evidenced through his exhaustively researched bestseller, Wizard, The Life and Times of Nikola Tesla. Dr. Seifer's wide-ranging and meticulously researched published articles, novels, and books span subjects ranging from metaphysics, behavior analysis, to science fiction. Besides his authoring, he is a forensic expert and published master of handwriting analysis. Now, I was looking into Dr. Seifer. He's been featured such places as, the United Nations in New York, Cambridge, Oxford, University of England, Lucasfilms, West Point Academy. I'm not even reading all of them. He's really had his work done a lot of different places. He's appeared on the History Channel, His work's also been on PBS, BBC, Coast to Coast Radio. He has a bachelor's from the University of Rhode Island. 35 years in handwriting, analyzing. This guy is the man for exactly what we're going to talk about, which is Nikola Tesla. Did that bio do some justice, Mark?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
For sure. So I don't know if this is possible, but could you do a little bit of a just Nikola Tesla in a nutshell, like a 5-minute who he is, what he did? We're going to go into a lot greater clarity discussion, but if you could just kind of give an overview of him.
Well, I kind of have to go back, and I go back to actually 1976, and I was about to work on my doctorate, and was teaching courses in parapsychology, and I was studying a guy by the name of Lapsang Rampa, who was a Tibetan guru who had written a book called The Third Eye. And when you find out in the third book that this Tibetan really was a British plumber who had decided to die, and the real Lapsang Rampa needed to live, so they swapped souls, and so the soul of Lapsang Rampa took over the body of Cyril Hoskins. It was a wild story, so I went down to New York to do some research at the public library there, and I found a book which listed a number of avatars, enlightened beings. One of them was this Lapsang Rampa. Another, of course, was Jesus Christ. And then another one was this guy called Nikola Tesla. And it said that he had invented fluorescent lighting, the induction motor, hydroelectric power system, wireless communication, robots, and so on. And his name was Tesla. And I said, this is ridiculous. If this guy really lived, I would certainly know who he was. But I was in the library, so I looked up his name, and I found an article from around 1910 on high-frequency phenomena written by Nikola Tesla. So I said, my gosh, this guy really is alive. He really was alive. He's a real person. And when I got back to Rhode Island, the editor of the magazine that I was working for gave me the John O'Neill biography on Tesla and another book called Nikola Tesla and the Venusian Spaceship. Now, again, this was 1976, and this guy, Arthur Matthews, said that Tesla was still alive. He'd be about 115, and he was living on a UFO circling up in Canada where this guy lived. So it was a very strange beginning for me. But so I got his list of patents, a book of his patents from the Tesla Museum, and I found out that he had patents in all those areas, in lighting and wireless communication and induction motor, et cetera, et cetera. So I said, man, this guy is real. Now, whether or not he was the primary inventor was a whole other thing. So I made him the subject of my doctoral dissertation as to why his name disappeared. And in the same time, I went into the history of each of these inventions. And I found out that Tesla really is the inventor of the hydroelectric power system and the induction motor. And he really predates Marconi in the invention of wireless communication, robots, remote control. And he invented many other things. And so based upon my own, life experience, it kind of gives you an introduction to who Tesla is. He really is the inventor of all these very inventions. And that's when I wrote the biography called Wizard. And in Wizard, I really go into tremendous depth into the history of each of these inventions and also his very exciting life. I mean, he lived at the Waldorf Astoria at the height of the Gilded Age in the 1890s. He was friends with people like Rudyard Kipling and Mark Twain, John Jacob Astor, Stanford White, the architect, and many other people. So he lived a very exciting life. And that's kind of a thumbnail sketch of a good part of him.
Cool. Let me keep building a foundation just for everyone who's kind of new to Nikola Tesla. So in the book, I mean, it talks about AC and DC a lot. And when I think of AC, I think of Tesla, and I think of Edison, I think of DC. Could you give just a brief explanation of the difference and why they were both important?
Yes. Electricity, by its nature, is alternating. Now, what that means is it changes its direction of flow from positive to negative at many times per second. So direct current removed the downflow, so it just went in one direction, but it was very inefficient. A comparable situation would be, let's say you wanted to harness a water wheel with a waterfall, But suppose the waterfall was flowing downhill and then uphill and then downhill and uphill at thousands of times a second. How could you make the water wheel go in one direction? That was the problem, and everyone thought it was impossible except for Tesla. So they all thought it was a pipe dream, that it was an impossible scheme, and Tesla spent about 5 years to figure out how to make this water wheel go in one direction. And he did that by creating two electric flows out of phase with each other, and he created something called a rotating magnetic field. In my book, I explain very clearly exactly what this is. But what this did was it removed the commutator. The commutator was a device which changed AC to DC. And so when Edison was using, lighting light bulbs in the 1880s, he could only send electricity about a mile, and power would drop off over distance. So if your house was close to the power station, you had bright lights, and if your house was, 1,000 or 2,000 feet away, your lights were duller, and if you were 5,000 feet away, you barely could, light your house. But at the same time, there were alternating current machines as well. Westinghouse had one, and L.U. Thomson had one, but they all used a commutator, so power was always dropping off over distance. So once Tesla figured out how to remove the commutator, you could then send electricity hundreds of miles, and you could send electrical power. So when Edison had his his setup, his electric lighting setup, you couldn't run a refrigerator or a toaster. All you could do was light light bulbs at every mile, where the power stations were. So at the time, which was in the 1880s, there were just in the Northeast, in the United States alone, about 3,000 local power plants. That means 3,000 little towns and cities all over the Northeast. And there were three competing companies. There was Westinghouse, L.U. Thomson's company, Thomson-Houston, and the Edison Electric Company. And Westinghouse was smart enough to realize that Tesla had the best system. So he purchased Tesla's system for probably maybe $500,000 plus royalties. And then they were going to race as to who was going to harness Niagara Falls. So the so-called War of the Currents was a battle between the DC people, which was Edison, against the AC people, which basically was Tesla and Westinghouse. And the plan was who was going to control Niagara Falls. Before Tesla, everyone thought that all of the industry in the Northeast would have to move up to Niagara Falls, because even if you could harness Niagara Falls, you could still only send energy about a mile. You couldn't light Buffalo from 22 miles away. So Edison was trying to win the bid to have all of the companies in the Northeast move up to Niagara Falls and run on his system. Had he won, it would have destroyed Niagara Falls, the beauty of it, and it would have been a horrible situation. So if you compare the two, I kind of compare it to like a horse and buggy to a jet plane, because Edison had the horse and buggy and Tesla had the jet plane. Because after Tesla, you didn't have to even be near a power source. You could just get a long distance electrical line, and you could do it that way. And so if you had a factory in the middle of the woods in Pennsylvania, you could now run your factory there, whereas before that you had to be along a river to be very close to the power source.
Yeah, when I hear you talk about this, I feel like sending power over a long distance is a gigantic breakthrough and would shape everything we know about electricity and how it affects our lives. So, and I was saving this question for later, but why on earth was Edison the only thing I learned in school, and Tesla I wasn't even aware of until I was older? Why did that happen?
So the question is, why did Tesla's name disappear from the history books?
Yeah.
When I first started this investigation, which again was in the late 1970s, I wanted to find out if Tesla really was the inventor of the induction motor or the AC polyphase system, which is the hydroelectric power system. And the very first book I found was by Charles Steinmetz, and it had the date of 1897. It was a mathematical book on alternating current. Charles Steinmetz worked for General Electric. So here is a book from 1897. That's a pretty old book. It was in the University of Rhode Island Library. And I'm looking through the book. Tesla's name doesn't appear in the book, does not appear in the book. So many people thought that Steinmetz was the inventor of alternating current because he wrote the major textbook in the field. The truth of the matter is that Steinmetz was working for the competitor. It's like the Yankees and the Red Sox, so he was on the Yankees or whatever, and the other team was the Red Sox. So he couldn't feature Tesla's name in the book because there was patent disputes as to who was the real inventor.
Oh.
So Tesla's name got separated from the invention by anybody connected to General Electric because they were in a patent dispute. They were trying to pretend that they came up with that idea because it was so powerful. Meanwhile, once he sold his invention to Westinghouse, the Tesla motor became known as the Westinghouse motor. So everybody, when I grew up, knew the name George Westinghouse and air brakes and all of that, Westinghouse Corporation. But no one heard of the name Tesla because he had sold the rights to the invention. So it became it became the Westinghouse motor. It's like today, the Apple computer and Stephen Jobs. Stephen Jobs didn't invent the computer. He didn't invent the mouse. But we know the name Stephen Jobs. I don't know who invented the mouse, but I think it was somebody for Xerox. But so that's what happened because that's one of the main reasons his name got separated, because he sold the patents and he was also in competition with people that purposely wanted to hide his name because they want to pretend that they came up with the invention on their own.
Yeah, it's weird. Many times through the book, I felt like Tesla was truly gifted in his invention, and then Edison always seemed to come up short in my mind, but what Edison always was doing was going to market. And I wonder if you could just give a little explanation. What was Tesla's personality like? Why did he have trouble going to market, whereas Edison was always first one in line?
Edison, I agree totally. Edison knew how to sell a product. Tesla really saw himself, in a sense, as a farmer sowing seeds. He didn't want to, plow the fields and sell the crops. He just wanted to sow the seeds and let everybody else do that. So he was very successful early on. Once he sold his patents to Westinghouse, he was essentially a millionaire living in the world of Astoria throughout the 1890s, and everyone knew that he was connected to these inventions at that time. But he had his eye on a bigger project, which was his wireless system. And I think it's hard, when you think about Tesla, it's hard to be critical of him. But if you're critical of him, my biggest criticism of Tesla is that he tried to do too much. I remember back in the 1990s, there was some fellow on the ice skating circuit who could do a quad. He could flip around 4 times and land, on one leg. Nobody else could do a quad but this one guy. And he got into the Olympics and he fell down like 3 or 4 times. He didn't medal, and I don't know his name. He was tall. It wasn't Kurt Browning. It was before Kurt Browning. And that was it. Now, he could have done triple axles like crazy, and he would have medaled, but he had to do the quad. And I think Tesla was like that. He had to do the quad. He wanted to do this giant worldwide system, and so he didn't do anything piecemeal. Marconi did it piecemeal. He had tiny little systems from ship to shore in every country and every boat. And so he was doing small-time things. Tesla wanted to do this huge worldwide thing. And when that failed, I kind of look at a football motif. He didn't drop back and punt, which is what he should have done. And so that's another reason why his name disappeared. And maybe it's a personality flaw that he had, where Edison sold the little trinkets, Tesla didn't want to do that. He wanted to do the whole entire thing at once.
Yeah, he was always on a giant scope project and not really grinding the market. Whereas some guys, they got the invention, they were just grinding the market. But like when you talk about wireless power, is that Wardenclyffe specifically that you're talking about? His big project?
Yes, Tesla wanted to transfer power by means of wireless. And even today we're thinking about trying to do that. And I'm working on a new book right now, which is dealing with Wardenclyffe to explain precisely what he wanted to do. But the big difference between what he wanted to do and what the radio systems of today are is basically he wanted to send electricity through the ground. And today, most of it, we think of it through the airwaves.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you a story from my own background, which really drove home how important the ground connection is. I was a kid, I was about 11 or 12 years old, and I was in the Boy Scouts, and I built a crystal radio set with my dad. A crystal radio set has no battery, and it doesn't plug in anywhere. It draws its energy from the atmosphere. And you have I made it out of a jar with wire wrapped around the jar and an antenna. And I had earphones, and I'm all set to get this thing going, and it didn't work. And my father, who was an electrical engineer, was pacing the room, and he couldn't figure it out. He says, "Oh, yeah, I got it." He said, "We forgot to put the ground connection." So he literally takes another wire and attaches it to our radiator. And all of a sudden, I could pick up all these radio stations. In fact, I listened to the first Muhammad Ali fight where he beat up Sonny Liston.
Wow.
On my little crystal radio set. Now, when I'm 11 or 12 years old, I'm aware the ground is very important because this thing didn't work until we attached it to the ground. I never totally understood, but now that I'm working on this new book on Wardenclyffe, I realize that really what's happening is that a lot of the information is actually being transferred through the ground. So what Tesla understood is that our entire radio system progressed by sending it through the airwaves. They all had ground connections, but they were predominantly sending it through the air. And what Tesla was saying is you got it reversed. You should predominantly send it through the ground.
Wow.
So that's one of the big things that I've learned kind of recently in working on the new book.
I want to give the listeners an idea of what Wardenclyffe was, and if I get any of this wrong, just correct me. But Tesla worked on a project that I believe was funded by Morgan. Is that correct?
Yes.
And he built a tower that also went into the ground with a connection. And his idea was he was going to first transmit signal and communications across the ocean to England, but eventually he was going to transmit power. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then could you just give an idea of what Wardenclyffe looked like, just visually, so people can kind of see it?
If the listeners have ever been out to New York City right at is right next to Long Island. Long Island is kind of shaped like a fish. It's got two flippers at the far end, or the tail of the fish, and one is the Hamptons and the other is the North Shore, which you can take a ferry boat to New London. I'm in Rhode Island, so if I want to go back to Long Island, if I want to go to Wardenclyffe, where Tesla's tower was, I would take a boat from New London to the Orient Point, which is the North Shore of Long Island, and then drive about 45 minutes or so inland. So we're still 60 miles out from New York City. So Long Island's a very flat area. So Tesla purchased 200 acres back in 1901 with $150,000 from J.P. Morgan, who was the richest, most powerful man in the world. And his idea was to set up a radio city out in Long Island in 1901. He hoped to employ like 1,000 people. And he's envisioning what becomes ABC, NBC, CBS, all the networks and all of that, and a wireless telephone system. But he also he bragged a lot. And he also talked about sending electrical power by means of wireless. He was very interested in doing that. But his first plan really was a worldwide radio and wireless telephone system. He really is the inventor of cell phone technology. Tesla is the guy who came up with the idea of how to create an unlimited number of cell phones where every single person on the planet can have their own channel. And what he did basically was he learned how to multiply frequencies. So you don't just our phones don't use one frequency, they use combinations of frequencies. And so I can explain it pretty easily.
Yeah.
Let's say only 10 frequencies are available. That means only 10 people can have their own cell phone. But if you could combine frequencies, then you could have 10 times 10 is 100 frequencies, so you could have 100 cell phones. And if you had a combination of three, it'd be 10 times 10 times 10, which would be 1,000. 10 times 100 is 1,000. So if you multiply the frequencies, even though you only have 10 channels, you can come up with 1,000 different cell phones if you have a combination of three frequencies. But of course, we're starting with a much wider range of numbers, and that you can get into the billions that way, and that's literally how every single person on the planet can have their own cell phone. So Tesla was aware of that, and he's writing to Morgan at the turn of the century, and he's saying, I can create an unlimited number of private wireless channels, and please give me the money to complete my operation. And Morgan is kind of afraid of a wireless system because he doesn't know how to build customers. I mean, we have computers now which do all this, but how do you know who's using your phone? So Tesla was trying to tell him that the money would come in a different way, that the revenue stream would be different. I grew up where television and radio was free. In fact, when cable television first came out in the 1970s, I thought, how dumb, what jerk would pay $20 a month, to get free television? And of course, now nobody has free television. Everybody pays a ton of money for TV. But when it was free, and the radio, it generates billions and billions of dollars. All the baseball players, the football players, basketball players, the reason that they can get these gigantic, huge salaries, and I'm talking hundreds of millions of dollars a piece for some of these people, is because of television and advertising. So Tesla understood that the revenue stream would be entirely different, but Morgan was in the old school. He wants a wire attached to a house. He wants a meter put on that wire, and he wants to sell copper, and he's got rubber plantations, he's got copper mines, he's got lumber yards. So he's afraid that the wireless system will undo all of his existing corporations. And so at some point, he turns against Tesla and prevents him from completing this incredibly audacious wireless system that was out on Wardenclyffe, 60 miles from New York City.
Yeah, I remember in your book, just listening to it, you could just feel the friction between him and Morgan, because Morgan's like, just transmit a message, and he's like trying to do something bigger and greater. And I mean, we're talking, this Wardenclyffe, was it a 150-foot tower with 150 feet into the ground? I can't remember the exact details, but it's huge.
Yeah, the tower was 187 feet tall, and it had a huge top. It looked like a mushroom at the top. And when I first wrote the book, I thought that the mushroom, the top of it, was to radiate out the messages. But in fact, the top was to collect the energy, and it would be to push it back into the earth. He didn't want anything to go out the top. So when you see this mushroom-shaped picture of Wardenclyffe, that top that looks like the eye of a fly with all the little bulbs on it is to collect the energy, not to radiate it out. Very interesting.
Yeah.
And then he had a well that was 120 feet deep, so it's 12 stories deep. And then he had piping that went another 300 feet straight down into the ground. So the entire circuit was 600 feet long, almost 200 feet tall, and 400 feet under the ground. And that was the circuit that was going to be used to transmit electrical energy around the planet.
Yeah, if you're listening right now, you should listen, just Google Wardenclyffe and look at it. It's pretty awesome to see. So Wardenclyffe, after all the research you've been doing, it's over 100 years later. How big of a stretch is wireless power through the earth, from what you know now?
I think that to transmit wireless power, I think is possible. He said that you could actually, he said it was conduction, you could actually increase the amount of energy. Power kind of drops off exponentially in general. A radio station has, a range of 30 or 50 miles. And I remember in one instance, we went up to Canada, and we used to listen to WABC, Cousin Brucey on WABC in New York. And I picked up Cousin Brucey up in Quebec, and that was 400 miles away. So I asked my Tesla experts about it, and they said, well, the impulse must have skipped along the ionosphere. I thought, well, I don't know, maybe it does. But in any event, radio stations only have a range of X amount of miles. But what Tesla was dealing with was extremely long frequencies. And the Navy had was called Project Seafarer, where you could send impulses around the entire Earth. So they're much longer radio waves. I mean, these radio waves could be thousands of miles long, the actual wave itself. Wow. So I do believe it's possible. But when you start to study it, it's a little bit scary because you got to generate a tremendous amount of electrical power. There's the danger of fires in the station itself. What does it do to the environment? I don't know. I mean, it's a great question. It's one of the big mysteries. And I'm in touch, of course, with the top Tesla experts in the world, and they're split. Some of them think that it was not possible to transmit great amounts of electrical power over great distances, and others believe that it was indeed possible and that it could be done. And I lay out both scenarios in the new book. It'll be called Tesla and the God Particle, but it'll be out in about a year from now, so it's a while away. So I can't really answer your question. I don't totally know. But I believe in Tesla, and I think that if he said it could be done, then I think that it could be done.
How interesting would that be if it ended up being done, and then to see how far ahead of his time he was? That would be crazy.
Yeah, it really would.
I have a handful of odds and ends questions throughout your book, but I want to just kind of open it up, see if William or Mason have anything, or if not, I can bounce through mine.
Well, hello, Mark. It's I'm happy to have you on. We've been talking for, I'd say, about a month now, trying to arrange this. So thanks again for coming on.
You're welcome.
So just a question I'd like to ask, just after kind of doing my research and some of my studies. A big thing that comes across my mind is, how do you think he would be received today, or someone maybe of his ingenuity would be received today?
Well, I think Elon Musk is kind of the reincarnation of Tesla.
Oh, wow.
He's the Tesla of today. He did not name the car company, the Tesla Motors company. He purchased it with that name. So he wasn't a huge Tesla fan when he first started out, but he kept the name, and I think over time he's been more and more interested in promoting Tesla. He's also donated $1 million to the Wardenclyffe project to rebuild that area, make a museum out of Wardenclyffe. But look at Elon Musk. He's truly amazing. Doing all this with electric car, which we need. We can't keep polluting the earth. The new decision by the president to remove, the pollution is a mistake. I mean, we have to protect the environment, and that was Tesla's very concerned about. And I think today Musk has got this spaceship, that
SpaceX.
He wants. SpaceX. I think the first thing they should do is set up a base on the moon. I think trying to go to Mars without having really set up something on the moon is a mistake.
Oh my God, I'm such a moon fan. Sorry to cut you off. It's huge, and it's there, and we don't have anything set up, so I just wanted to throw that out, that I'm with you.
Have you ever seen it on the map?
Yeah. Sorry to cut you off.
No, that's okay. But I think Elon Musk is kind of a new Tesla. I think Stephen Jobs certainly, is in that realm as well. Okay. I think Tesla, he is a hero today. I mean, he's got a huge underground following. The Big Bang Theory is the most popular show on television. It's got a viewing audience of 50 million. And in every single show is a photograph of Tesla in Colorado Springs. It's on the wall, and in the background there.
Oh, I never thought of that.
I love Tesla.
Yeah, so, and even Sheldon, kids around about it, when one of the people wanted to give him a haircut, he said, give me a haircut, make it look like a combination of Bill Gates and Nikola Tesla. So Tesla's, entered, the zeitgeist again after having disappeared off the face of the earth. He's reappeared.
So you did bring up Musk, and that's great, and I'm glad you did, because I think for a generation now, and I'd even say the young entrepreneurs and stuff like that, and young kids coming up, he's a great person to have as a role model. What do you think he would think of the Tesla car company? And I got to say, I didn't know that he bought the name. I thought he had created, and it was a tribute to.
Me too.
Well, what's very interesting to me is that the people that have backed Tesla Motors are the heads of Google, which is Larry Page and Sergey Brin. And if you read Larry Page's background, the reason why he got into computers was because he read a biography on Tesla, which was probably the O'Neill biography, and also the head of Participant Pictures, Jeffrey Skoll, who made his money from eBay. So you've got these 4 billionaires all backing Tesla Motors, and 2 of them are directly connected to Tesla. Larry Page through being turned on by Tesla, and Musk by buying the name. So it's truly amazing how Tesla has resurrected. And what interested me is that I think Musk is the most advanced person on the planet today. And almost every time they mention Musk's name, they mention Tesla Motors, so Tesla's name has been mentioned almost every time. Even President, Barack Obama mentioned Tesla's name several times.
Yeah.
And so I think it's that there is a whole group of people in Silicon Valley that now have a statue in honor of Tesla. I think that it's important.
I'm so happy to see a Tesla kind of, what's the word, just comeback or
resurgence.
Awareness, yeah.
You'll see it more and more too. Like the first model of the Tesla car is like $100,000, and they just started testing the $38,000 model.
Yeah,
so,
it's already a lineup for that.
Yeah, so we'll see it more and more.
Well, I've got plenty of questions. It's up to you guys. I could start hitting them off, or
yeah, fire away.
All right, let me go to one that I'm just so curious about. So, in your book, they talk about how Tesla went to a building with a device, and it was a device that would emit frequency or vibration. And I'm probably butchering this, but anyway, he went to the building and he attached it to a beam on the building and he turned it on. And once he tuned to the frequency of the building, he was shaking the whole block. And potentially you could take down a building, is kind of how it's said in the book. And I told my grandpa about this, and he was saying, oh yeah, when they march over bridges in the army, they don't let them stop. Or I believe it was my grandpa, maybe it was in your book, but that frequency and resonance can destroy. What was that? Do you think it was true? And then if it is true, why isn't it like a terror device? I'm surprised people aren't taking down buildings with a simple little pocket device.
Well, it's totally true.
So what keeps something so simple out of the hands of bad? Well, I hope no terrorists are listening to this. Terrorists.
Did you ever see that on Mythbusters?
What?
They did that on Mythbusters.
Could they do it?
Yeah, they started they built like a model bridge, and they started shaking it.
Did they destroy it?
I don't remember. It was like 7 years ago.
They had it. It was violently swinging, though. I mean, they had it to the point to where it looked like bubbled pavement.
So it'd eventually go.
Yeah.
It would go, yeah.
So why? I'm just confused why this isn't a big deal. Like it's like a bomb in a pocket.
Yeah.
Well, there's even a bigger story underneath it all. And it's a very complicated story. Tesla's the inventor of the oscillator, which is what this is. He created, they're called, undamped waves, continuous waves. So Marconi was using a spark gap method based on Heinrich Hertz. So Marconi's wireless system, you could only send Morse code. Tesla's system, you could send voice, pictures, and eventually even power through continuous, wireless waves. That oscillator is vibrating at a very rapid rate. And there are different kinds of oscillators that he created. Some are mechanical oscillators and some are electrical. So the mechanical oscillator, if you put it on a support beam for a major building and you hit the resonant frequency of that support beam, that beam will begin to vibrate. And every beam built the same exact way will begin to vibrate. And that's how he created a minor earthquake, in downtown. But there's a guy by the name of Royal Rife, who is, I've written about him in another book called Transcending the Speed of Light. And Rife had a microscope, and he wanted to look at viruses. And in order to look at these viruses, you need to magnify them 40,000 times. He would shine light on the viruses, and when he hit the resonant frequency of the virus would begin to vibrate, so it would illuminate, it would luminesce,
Wow.
and so you could focus the microscope. But now you knew the resonant frequency of the virus. So if you continued to hit it with the same frequency, you would destroy the virus. So instead of using it as a weapon, we could use it as a way to cure cancer, which is what Royal Rife did in the 1930s. He had the cure for cancer. It was light therapy, exactly what I'm explaining. It's just pure physics. There's nothing wrong with it. And the good question is, whatever happened to Rife? Whatever happened to that system? I've tried to, get the medical community interested again in this because I can't see anything wrong with it. To me, it seems like a perfect system.
Yeah.
I mentioned in Sending the Speed of Light, there's a fellow, it was a boy. He found the resonant frequency for the mosquito larvae. So when mosquito larvae are still larvae, if you hit them with a sound pulse, you will destroy the larvae.
Wow.
So it's just a beep. So you could put this beep inside a lake at the right time, go whoop, and boom, you would kill every single mosquito larvae in the lake.
Wow.
So there's different, there are different uses for this exact same principle.
Tesla used to run power through himself on a daily basis. What was his reasoning for that?
I was going to say he got a charge out of it.
That was perfect.
He had what they called an electric bath. And he, it threw off particles, and it was a way to clean himself without, getting wet. That was one of the reasons. But he was also into electrotherapy. He is the inventor of the electrotherapy machine. I don't know if you go to a chiropractor or so and you get hooked up with the electrotherapy machine. That's Tesla's invention. So he also, the same exact principle, he was working on the idea of curing cancer that way, that if you could send the correct electrical frequencies through the body, you would cure it of its ills. There's a guy by the name of Becker who has used electrical frequencies to help knit bones in people that don't heal correctly. And he's studied amphibians that have had limbs. If you chop off the tail of an amphibian, it'll regrow the limb, the tail. And so if you could find that correct frequency, you could promote healing. So he was using electricity for a lot of different reasons. That was, a couple of the reasons that he was using it, sending it through his body.
Huh. So
he also used it as a PR campaign to show that it was safe. I mean, because Edison was, electrocuting cats and dogs and even an elephant with Tesla's alternating current. Say, if you go with AC, your housewife will get Westinghoused, and so you didn't want that to happen. And Tesla said, well, wait a second, I'm going to send it through my body and show that it can be safe if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, there's some pictures of Tesla lighting bulbs through his body, and I know there's a picture of him under one of his big machines, but he was laid in there with, at the time, just kind of photoshopping of their day, right?
Say that again?
There's a picture that's really famous of Tesla, him sitting on a chair under a generator, and there's just arcs going everywhere, and if I remember right, in the book they said that they kind of superimposed that with two pictures. Is that, maybe I'm mistaken, I'm not sure.
Well, he used multiple images. The famous pictures of him in Colorado surrounded by lightning. They shoot the picture twice, in a sense, with him sitting there, and then he leaves, and then they electrify it, and so, you've got the double image.
Yeah,
so he did that.
And I mean, the reality was he could light bulbs through himself. He showed that many times. Was that the fluorescent bulbs that he did?
Well, there were different things that he did. That wasn't the fluorescent. That was his Tesla coil.
Okay.
And, there are different groups now, like Arc Attack, which have these Tesla coils where they go around the country and do these amazing things. And so that's one thing. But the other was, and the electricity isn't really going through his body. It's mostly going around his body.
Oh, okay.
So when he's holding the light bulb, it's kind of going along the surface of his body to light the light bulb.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, but it's still pretty amazing.
It's awesome. So we talk about all these different things that are just so cool. One of the things I don't know if he bragged about it, but he said he could create a death ray that could drop planes for up to, I think it was 200 miles. What do you think about the death ray? I know he used it for PR.
I believe that it's true. I think you really could. What he did was, he realized if you take a flashlight, and you shine it, the ray spreads out. And he said, well, how can I make a single stream? I think he invented the laser beam, but I don't think he was aware of it, because you read his stuff, and it's in the book, where all of the principles of lasers are there. But a laser wouldn't take down a plane. So he needed particles, and he figured out a way to shoot out particles, a tiny little stream of particles out of a cannon, essentially, through a repelling force. So if the particle had a negative charge, if you produced a very powerful negative charge of a belt of electricity, the negative would hit the negative and boom, shoot out through a repelling force, and that was his particle beam weapon. And he, at the time, which was, as World War II was breaking out, was trying to sell this, or at least set it up for the U.S. government and also for Great Britain. And the Soviet Union was our ally at that time, so he was negotiating with them. And he was also negotiating with Yugoslavia because Hitler was invading Yugoslavia and killing the Serbs left and right. And he wanted to set up these particle beam weapon systems. And his goal really was to prevent war. He figured that if everyone had a particle beam weapon, you'd be dumb to invade another country. And so he was hoping that it would end war. That was the logic behind it.
It's weird. 100 years later, you would think that they would be using that, or someone would have recreated that, or
they have. I have an article recently. You can look it up. But the Navy now is using exactly particle beam weapons.
Oh, really? Wow. I'm going to actually check that out for sure.
Yeah. So I do have a question for you. You had mentioned earlier, if I could go back just a little bit, about the wireless power. I'm wondering then, why is that not more common now? Because you're talking about J.P. Morgan, and he had copper mines, et cetera, et cetera. Is the reason why we don't use it, is it because it's wrapped up in money? I mean, is it the big business that doesn't want to do away with that technology? If it was invented so long ago, why are we not using it now?
Tesla was a genius. He was in a category all by himself. And he wanted to do something that I'm saying even now, the top Tesla experts are split as to whether or not it could be done. Some of them say, copper wire is a lot easier to transfer power through copper wire than through the ground. And it's hard to argue that. And then, you read Tesla's stuff and you say, well, geez, maybe it is possible. But one of the reasons is we have an entire technology built on an entirely different system. And so if you want to scrap this system to go to a whole new system, that's partly what you're dealing with. And also, we don't really need it. I mean, we're getting along fine with our power grid that we have. But, let's say you needed to somehow get power to. I mean, I think what's going to happen is solar energy will take over. Tesla thought he could harness cosmic rays. So there are different things that we could do to do it. I'm very against nuclear power, and I wrote, when I was a kid, I wrote articles on nuclear power. And the reason is, what do you do with the plutonium? I mean, what do you do with the? It's too dangerous.
Yeah.
And you talked about terrorists. Thank heavens, they didn't. They flew into the. It was horrible that they flew into those buildings in New York City. But suppose they had flown into a nuclear power plant.
Yeah, the fallout.
I mean, it's too dangerous. And so, Tesla's system. What's very important to realize, the hydroelectric power system runs on a waterfall. He talked about, harnessing the wheelwork of nature. It's essentially, talk about free energy. It's free. I mean, it doesn't cost anything. As long as the water keeps falling, you're not paying, you're not using oil, you're not using coal, you're not sapping the earth of its natural elements, and it's pollution free. Nuclear power, you've got the problem of what do you do with the nuclear waste? Chernobyl is still an area, huge area, and there's places in Japan now you can't go to because of the screw-ups.
Yeah,
so
Fukushima.
Tesla was dealing with the ideal. It really was the ideal. And I think solar energy is another way to go. It's getting better and better and less expensive. But I think that Tesla is the single most important person for helping to slow down global warming. Because if he had not come along when he did, we would have been stuck with these thousands of coal-operated power plants, and it would have been a lot harder to undo all those at the time. We needed him at that moment. 10 years later, it would have been a lot harder to undo all that would have been entrenched at the time.
There was a point in the book where he had a fire break out at his workspace or laboratory. Do you think that was a malicious fire?
In 1895, his laboratory burnt down, and I don't think it is. I think it's exactly what they said it was. I think it was a dry cleaning company that caught on fire below his. He was on the third floor, and this was on the second floor. And I do not think it was malicious.
Okay. I go down some of the conspiracy things. What about when he died, they seized his belongings right away. What do you think about the seizure, and do you think they've kept things under wraps to this day?
I'm sorry. Ask that again, please.
Yeah, no problem. So just to go down a touch of the conspiracy route, when he died, they did seize his belongings, the U.S. government, I believe. Do you think there's stuff that they still haven't shown us that they seized at that time?
Yes, I do think so. I thought somebody would get this.
Call from Rose.
That's awesome.
Real life happens.
Yeah.
Please call back.
Please call back.
Yeah, when he died, his papers were confiscated. And it's very interesting that it was something called the Trump Report. There was a guy by the name of Trump. Hello? I'm sorry. Apologize.
No, it's A-okay.
No problem. We got editing skills. It's kind of funny, too.
Yeah, real life.
There was a guy by the name of John O. Trump. He worked at MIT, and he was hired to look through all of Tesla's papers. And I have the Trump Report. I got it from the FBI, the Freedom of Information Act. And he talks about the secret, particle beam weapon paper that he had, and also cosmic rays that he said was harnessing. Tesla hid a lot of his stuff. Are any of his papers still hidden? There might be a couple, but one of them was the particle beam weapon paper, which Andrija Puharich was able to publish in 1984. So it was kept hidden for 50 years. But he hid a lot of his stuff, and I deal with that in this new book that I'm working on, which had to do with his dynamic theory of gravity, which was a whole different way of looking at what gravity is. And, I call the book Tesla and the God Particle. In CERN, in Switzerland, they're looking for the particle that gives matter its mass.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get the physical universe? And Tesla's theory of gravity pretty much explains all of this, but he kept it hidden. And I think that, there are military implications for a lot of what he did. And also there are ways perhaps of harnessing energy that we don't yet use that would, be a blow to the power companies. So I think that there are papers and information that he has that have been kept secret for various reasons.
So it's not a total weird conspiracy. He could very easily have stuff on free energy or particle beam type things, and I just find it interesting. One of the other conspiracies you mentioned in the book is the Siberian forest massacre, where 800 square miles of trees are knocked down, and there's no remnants of any bomb or comet or anything. What do you think the odds are that Tesla could have something to do with that or something like that, testing his Wardenclyffe device or invention?
I think it was a great theory. Oliver Nicholson came up with the idea, and I think it's a fantastic idea. I don't think that Tesla did that, though, and I'll give you a couple of reasons why. Do you remember about 2 or 3 years ago, a meteor exploded in Russia and knocked out like 1,000 windows?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Remember that? And they even photoed some of the cameras on the cars picked it up. Now this was a very small meteor, and it had a huge impact because it hit the atmosphere at the right way, and just tremendous explosion of energy. What I think it was an asteroid that skimmed the Earth right at that point and knocked out an area the size of Rhode Island. So I think that if Tesla could have generated that much power, it's just too much power. I think it's much more likely that it's a cosmic event. Plus, his equipment was dismantled at that time. He didn't have the equipment anymore. If it had happened before 1904, I would have given it more a possibility that he could have done it. But Tunguska happened in 1908, and by the end of 1904, his Wardenclyffe was defunct, basically. He lost his big generator, so he just didn't have the power to do anything like that.
I'm glad you mentioned that, though, because it makes it feel very credible. I love going down the conspiracy theory highway, and I probably shouldn't.
Well,
No.
especially with all of his advances, though. I mean, and that's kind of what spurned my wheels. If they found something in any of his papers, I mean, I feel, and you mentioned the Freedom of Rights Act and everything, freedom of knowledge and stuff. It makes me wonder, and I have a thirst for wanting to know what else he discovered, what else he wanted available to the public. I get this gut feeling that we could be living in a better way. I mean, you bring up coal and things like that. It just seems like a much more rational way we could be living. I picture the powers that be, the finances, the uprooting of a traditional system that we have now could being a reason why it's not released.
Well, I was at a conference in Belgrade a few years back, and one fellow was talking about, the sun's always shining someplace on the Earth. And if you had a global power system, if the Earth really was unified, the sun's always shining someplace. And so you could redistribute power, and you'd have power all of the time by correctly made solar energy plants situated all around the entire Earth. And when it's dark on one side, the light side would transmit the electricity to the dark side. And so that's a great idea. And another point about all this, though, is Tesla was hidden, from society. His name was disappeared and was made to disappear for a variety of reasons. But once I, researched him, I learned about Tunguska because of Tesla. I mean, there were big secrets. I mean, this was a huge cosmic event that got very little play, but is resurrected because of Tesla. I mean, I think we should have, those movies like Deep Impact.
Yeah.
I think we should have a setup, and I think it should be set up on the moon to protect the Earth from the possibility of some giant meteor headed this way, and we've got to be able to change its trajectory. You only have to change it probably 10 or 15 feet out there to make a huge difference by the time it hits, here. So it's something that we really should be thinking about.
Yeah, I am so confused why we're not doing more on the moon. It kills me. So I listened to your book, and it was awesome, very credible, very detailed. And then I also watched a random documentary on Amazon. And on this documentary, which could be a total piece of trash, they showed Tesla. He stuck light bulbs in the ground miles and miles away from, I believe it was a lightning tower. And he caught the lightning, and he lit up these bulbs through the ground miles away. Is that halfway accurate? Is that a stretch? Is that a guess?
Well, in Colorado Springs, he tried to transmit electrical power. No one knows for sure how far he did it from the laboratory, and that's what they were recreating, what he did at Colorado Springs. According to the top Tesla experts that I've spoken to, Robert Gulka and Professor Marinchinch, these were two. Gulka built these huge wireless Tesla, coils in the 1970s. He said the most he could have done was maybe 30 miles. That Tesla just didn't have the ability to send it more than 30 miles with his power plant that he set up in Colorado Springs.
30 miles is pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But he probably did light bulbs at distances from his laboratory and tower, in Colorado Springs. But my guess is really that it was probably a few hundred feet, maybe a mile. I just don't think he was able to light bulbs farther than that.
Gotcha.
You and your documentaries.
I know. I just get all the information, then try and sort through it and not go down the rabbit holes. Is there, for everyone, is there anything that is worth hitting before we get off the phone? This has been awesome.
Yeah, I'm going to have to ask. And so you mentioned that you're going to have another book come out, of course. Without giving away what you're going to be writing in the future, is there something that the average person does not know about Tesla that you would like them to know? I mean, being the researcher and the enthusiast that you are.
Oh, there's a lot. I mean, there's a new biography that came out that says that Tesla's an illusionist, that he wasn't really responsible for the hydroelectric power system. and that his oscillators weren't that good, and that he was trying to scam Morgan so he could continue to live at the Waldorf Astoria. It's a very prestigious looking book, and what's happened, and it's gotten great reviews. And what's happened is this myth has been starting to be created through this book, which is just ripped off my book hugely. I mean, the comparisons, there's like 500 lines I found in my book, in this new book. And it creates this fictitious person, which just isn't Tesla, because he really is the inventor of the hydroelectric power system. And he really was noble in trying to build a wireless system. He wasn't trying to scam Morgan. So I think that that's something that the public should be aware of, and that is that there's a lot of disinformation under the guise of it being a scholarly work out there. But I also would say I've written about his theory, the dynamic theory of gravity. I'm going to expand on it in my new book, but I wrote a book called Transcending the Speed of Light, and chapters 4 and 5 of that book really cover this different theory of gravity, which I think is very exciting. There's a lot to it. I'll just tell you about his theory of gravity. There's more to it than this.
Okay.
But, I grew up, I always would joke about, I don't get why the people in Australia don't fall off the earth. And to some extent, I still don't really totally understand it. But, it's just against common sense. They're on the bottom of the earth, and so why don't they fall off? But so what is gravity? Gravity is seen as an attractive force. We're somehow attracted to the earth. That's not what Tesla said at all. What Tesla said was that he first said, that the sun was absorbing more energy than it was radiating. And I only found that in one sentence, in one line, in the thousands and thousands of pages that I read about Tesla's work. And he told one person, he told Joseph Alsop, who was Teddy Roosevelt's grandnephew, who became a very famous reporter, but at the time he was just a young 22-year-old reporter. So he said, and it's in Wizard, that the sun is absorbing more energy than it's radiating. I didn't totally understand all the ramifications of that when I put that in the book. I knew it was important. That's associated with his dynamic theory. What Tesla is saying is that all of matter is absorbing energy all of the time. And so the reason that the sun is able to radiate all this energy is because it's absorbing a tremendous amount of energy. And what gravity is, the reason why we fall back to the earth is not because we're attracted to the earth, but because all of the molecules in the earth, all the atoms in the earth are constantly absorbing ether. They're constantly absorbing energy all of the time and transforming that into electromagnetic force. And so we're in the way of that influx. That's why we fall back to the earth, because the earth is sucking in energy all the time and we're in the way of that influx. Now that has huge implications for CERN, the super collider out in Switzerland, where they're looking for the God particle.
Yeah.
But it means resurrecting the ether. And so Tesla was a very strong proponent of the ether. Einstein's theories really didn't do away with the ether, but they were misinterpreted, and the end result was that the entire 20th and 21st century had evolved with the idea that, there's nothing, it's an empty vacuum in space, which isn't true at all. It's filled with energy. And so I think that's very exciting, and that's kind of the heart and soul of what my book will end up discussing, aside from discussing precisely how Wardenclyffe works. But I do discuss that pretty much in depth in the book Transcending the Speed of Light. So if people are interested in Tesla's dynamic theory, that's what I would suggest is, taking a look at chapters 4 and 5 of that book as well.
It's going to be cool.
Well, you definitely more than answered my question. I mean, I'd never heard that the sun is absorbing more energy than giving off. It's almost readjusting the way that you view almost everything. I mean, he sounds like someone who was just so ahead of his time. And then you think that, but what you said earlier struck me, that he was born and he was there at a perfect time. He almost saved us now being around then. I mean, it amazes me.
Well, when I first got started with him, that crazy book I found having to do with Lapsang Rampa, it said that Tesla was an extraterrestrial, that he was born on the planet Venus. He came to the Earth to give us all these inventions. That story got morphed into a novel called The Man Who Fell to Earth. And
Wow.
they made a movie out of it. It starred David Bowie. And there's a movie called The Prestige, which stars Hugh Jackman and Michael Caine and Christian Bale. And David Bowie plays Tesla in that movie. And the reason he was chosen is because he played Tesla as an extraterrestrial in the movie The Man Who Fell to Earth, although Tesla's name was never mentioned. It was just one of these secrets that people knew about based on this crazy novel that I found in the 1970s that started me on this whole process. So, he's creative. He's got so many different things about him that he sparks so much interest. I have a screenplay that I've written with my partner, Tim Eaton, who worked for Lucasfilms for 20 years. And we've written, 20 episodes. I kind of envision like a Downton Abbey kind of a show which follows his life. Because he lived at the height of the Gilded Age in the Waldorf Astoria with all these amazing friends. Paderewski was the highest paid pianist of the day, who he was friends with. Anton Dvorak, who wrote New World Symphony, would go to his laboratory. Stanford White, the great architect. So there's so much there. So I think we've got different screenplays that we're trying to sell right now, and I just think the story has got so many different levels to it. It's just an exciting time because it was like the transfer from the agrarian age to the new modern age, and he was leading the charge and living the high life.
Yeah,
I would love to see that.
And it sounds to me that you'll almost never be done researching. You'll never be done finding more.
Yeah, my doctoral dissertation was 700 pages. I said, to my mentor, I said, geez, why didn't he die at the age of 40? He had to live to the age of 86. I mean, because he just kept going.
This has been so cool.
Yeah. So just for our listeners out there, is there anything that you would like them to know about you? I know you've done many other things other than, the book on Wizard. You've got Rasputin's Nephew. You've got Crystal Knight. I mean, you've got so many things that you've done. Is there anything that you'd want the listeners to know?
Or websites to go to?
Yeah, well, I'm very proud of my novels. I've written 4 novels. They all follow a reporter. I call him Rudy Stein. It's a takeoff on Rudolf Steiner, who was a guy into higher states of consciousness. And right now there's a new book called Phenomena. It's about psychic warfare and Uri Geller. And Uri's a good friend of mine. And my first novel, Rasputin's Nephew, is kind of a takeoff on Geller's life. I would, I think that your listeners would really enjoy, reading these novels. They're all written over the course of 30 years. And I've lived a very varied life. I taught parapsychology for 15 years. I did studies in telepathy and mind over matter and many of those things, and interviewed all these super psychics.
Wow.
And then I did a lot of research on Germany and World War I and World War II, and that's the second 2 books. And I get into computer hacking. We're right now dealing with, have the Russians hacked into our, electoral system, and Doppelganger and Crystal Knight both deal with computer hacking as part of the story, and also with World War I and World War II in the backstory. And my last novel that I just completed is called Fate Line. It's a graphological murder mystery. I'm a graphologist, too. I'm a handwriting expert. I've testified in court about 50 times and, worked on many forgery cases. And so a lot of my life's work in graphology is in the last novel, Fate Line. So I thought if you guys like the book Wizard, I think you would really enjoy my novels as well. Is really what I'm suggesting.
Perfect. I think we need to send everyone to a website too. Will, you have that up? What's the domain?
Yeah, so it's www.marcseifer.com. So it's just your name.com.
It's well done. I can look at it from right here. It's a nice site.
We've got a full breakdown of all of your novels and everything and your research, and then gives a little bio of you, and then a breakdown, a click to link of everywhere you'd want to go.
Thanks for coming on, Marc. This has been awesome. Seriously.
Thank you very much for having me.
I've enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed your book. And everyone who's listening, if you want more, listen to the book, Wizard, The Life and Times of Nikola Tesla. So thanks for coming on, Mark.
And best of luck for your future novel.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Adios, man.
My mind is blown.
Yeah. Mason, what's your mind doing? Every time you don't talk, I'm like, he's thinking something.
Yeah.
Well, no. So when I was in high school, a whole 7 years ago, I wrote a paper on Tesla and how he knew like 8 different languages, and he could just envision a machine in his mind and build it without any sort of scheme written up, or and he could read a book and memorize it and recite it at any point. Wow. And so I kind of wrote about Tesla being a geek working in a geek space, and Edison was like a CEO trying to be in this geek environment.
Total CEO.
Yeah.
What a good way to put it.
So my mind is just thinking, fuck Edison.
So how was that for you then, hearing him talk?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay.
I mean, it just makes me want to go read more about Tesla. I mean, there's so much that we don't know, or that I don't know.
I like that he was really honest about the conspiracy stuff.
It's got to be hard for you, because every guest we have on, they're like,
I love entertaining the ideas in my head, but like I like it when they just kind of shoot them down with reality, because then it builds more credibility for their work. Not that some aren't true, but what do you guess? 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20 are true, like the conspiracy theories.
But when it comes to Tesla, I mean, you have to think that there's so much more out there about him that we don't know, that I don't know will ever be released. And that's where my mind is just blown, because he was so ahead of his time.
Jesus, yeah. It's over 100 years. And we don't have some of his stuff he was working on.
Yeah.
Yep. And he died without anything.
Yeah.
Well, and he nailed it when he talked about, for me, he nailed it when he talked about Morgan, how he didn't want to lose revenue.
Morgan was in full support until he couldn't send one message. Morgan's like, send one message.
Yeah. Okay.
And he's like, no, we're going to send power. We're going to be able to send. He was like always going way down the road. And Morgan's like, I'm not giving you any more money till you send a message.
That would happen now, though.
Yeah. A guy putting in money.
I mean, if you got funded or something and they wanted results within a certain time, and you're like, well,
you could feel the friction, and Morgan was pissed. He's like, I've given you 100, 150. You want, just send a message and I'll give you more. And he's like, well, but we need to go deeper and bigger. And
so was it that Tesla couldn't do it, or he just didn't want to do it?
I think Tesla
wasn't thinking that way.
I think he could have done it with a lot more money.
He could have done it with the money he had, I believe.
He could have sent wireless messages.
He just wasn't. He wasn't in it for the same reasons that anybody else was. That's why Edison is Edison and he's Tesla.
Tesla's totally the creative, weird, reclusive inventor.
He's the guy who makes cell phone transmission, or what, just as an example, but doesn't monetize it. He just makes it, and he's like, oh, people can make money off of it.
It's like Musk. Here, I designed this hole. I'm just going to put it out here for free. Go ahead and go build it.
He's capitalizing, though. I think he's got a good blend of capitalizing.
Yeah, he's not hurting for money.
Honestly, though, one of the messages I took from this book was, if you don't go to market, you lose fuel for your engine. So, and like an overall engine. So, like, because he didn't like focus on market at times, he could have generated so much cash and then kept like working on his pursuits. He stayed in his pursuits so much that the market would never catch up.
Some trivia.
Yeah,
some Musk trivia.
If you're a creative genius, partner with a business mind.
Yeah.
Or if you're a business mind, partner with a creative. Or if you're a creative, embrace your business mind at times so you can fuel your fire. That's just like one of the messages I took.
Sound advice.
You guys want to do some trivia real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the first company that Musk created?
PayPal.
Fuck, man. For how much?
I don't know.
180 million.
Jesus.
Whoa, that's what he put in to create it?
He created PayPal and he sold it for 180 million.
He
said, cash me outside with my 180 million.
How about that?
She's a millionaire now. So I guess
Reality show. We can't talk about her.
No.
Anyway.
Cashed out at 180 million, and he just fueled the system. It just kept going. And now he's trying to build a tunnel under LA.
Well, not only that, he's doing the neural lacing for AI.
SpaceX, neural lacing, Hyperloop.
Yeah. Okay.
Solar tiles on the roof, which is to market now.
That's amazing.
Yeah, go to market now. Tesla cars now.
We'll also be in Mars in 10 years.
Future question. What do you think your kids are going to see? when they are your age?
I think I'm going to live to be 120 if I don't die before 50.
You're going to mesh with machine like the guy from Google says.
Yeah, so I bet my kids will live to be a couple hundred.
Okay, explain that really quick for the listeners.
So I've only read the articles, I read the 2-paragraph version. He's lacing the brain with AI, with technology.
Yeah.
How on earth he'll do that, I don't know. And they love the headlines. They're like, it'll record your thoughts.
Yeah.
But he says if you live past 50.
Well, no, that's someone else. That's a Google executive. You wrote a book on man meshing with machine.
We should get him
They
on.
say if you can live right now to be 54, then you'll start getting, the machinery organs
To live much longer.
He says someone alive right now will be 500.
Like your blood cells are going to be able to store more oxygen. You'll be able to sit under a pool for like 6 hours, that type of thing.
Your blood cells you can put technology in your blood that will know what diseases are out and will fight them off without you even having to worry about it.
So if you can live to be 54, which, you're almost there. You'll for sure get it, dude.
8-shot.
Wow.
Yeah.
You got me.
I know.
Bazinga? Is that fair to say after this episode?
Sure.
I
I
guess
don't like that.
Jerk.
I'm born in the 80s, you're born in the 70s, you're born in the 90s.
Yeah.
We got a broad crowd.
I'm sensing some ageism right now.
Ageism?
I hope when this is released, you get some shitty emails from some elderly people. Damn it, I gotta stop calling myself
They don't know how to
old.
email, so.
No.
Oh, I can't wait for
You can't come over and play my damn Atari, okay? You cannot.
I can't wait for
Alright.
the messages of hate, and
No.
I hope they're equally distributed.
We should get Musk on here, guys.
No, he might.
Yeah, why
We
not?
should.
No, straight up, he might not season 1. Let him hear season 1, and he
Yeah.
might go season 2.
Why not, right?
Yeah.
All three of us dream big.
Let's get the Kurzweil, the Google.
Ray Kurzweil.
Yeah, we'll get him on too.
Yeah.
Yep.
So answer my question.
Yeah.
What do you think your kids are going to see when they're your
God,
age?
I don't know, man. I'm just trying to think of some things that would be notable.
Shoot for the moon.
Geez, well, we're
Easy.
gonna see very quickly, Uber style with no drivers.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
easy.
they already have self-driving cars.
Okay, let's go
The
stretch.
self-driving Uber car just crashed, though, in Arizona, so.
That's bound to happen now and then.
It was like it tipped on its side.
It just going, fell over.
Something happened.
Mace, millennial stretch. What are you gonna see?
I think you're going to see like neural implant cell phone type technology where you'll be able to communicate with, something that's implanted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like next to your eye, you'll just be able to blink and call somebody or blink and you'll be able to hail an Uber.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Would you be down for that?
Fuck yeah.
See, I'm totally the opposite. Don't
Would
put
it-
any
okay.
shit in my brain.
What if it included a VR and you could blink and you're on the 50-yard line at the Super Bowl in VR?
Yeah.
That's going to happen. And it's
Yeah.
not like VR that we have up there. It's going to be like real in
Dude,
your motherfucking brain.
I grew up playing Pong, asshole. I can't think of blinking my eye of being
gonna
in the
happen.
Super Bowl.
It's
No, this is amazing.
It's a
gonna
stretch
happen.
for me too, but yeah.
How's it a stretch?
No, I mean
we have it on the outside.
It's a stretch in my mind because it's a linear look at things. But when
Yeah.
you look at exponential computer, it's going to happen.
There's a theory for that, right?
It's the same reason that we're going to live to be 500. It's because that health tech grows at the same rate as tech.
Okay.
So it's just
and it doubles every.
it's crazy.
Whatever, yeah.
So do you see us getting away from, he talked quite a bit about coal and pollutants and things like that, and then he touched slightly with the EPA and those kind of things.
Yeah.
Do you see us getting, in the future or even near future, to a better technology?
For sure.
To where we realize maybe even the powers that be that the populace wants it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No
So
problem.
you gotta
And the EPA
understand
doesn't
that-
even scare. It scares me in the short term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, BA. But the market gets what the people want, and so if people want
Eventually.
eventually.
You also have to
Okay.
understand
The long
that
game.
in 30 years, you're gonna have people who are running the world that are my age,
Yeah.
who are more focused on technology.
My kid.
Your kid.
So my kid in just a few amount of years is going to be voting and
And
making
think about
decisions.
when you were your kid's age. Did you have any idea about global warming or anything like that?
No, really not so much. You heard a little bit about the planet heating up and maybe a little throw off of seasonal, but no, not.
Yeah.
There was no Leonardo DiCaprio making a special episode coming out and crying to the world.
Yeah. So the people that are going to be in charge are going to be.
So the powers that be right now, the old archaic attitude,
Gotta
they'll
wait for the
be
old
gone.
white guys to
They'll be
die.
gone.
The new mindset that's coming out, they don't even care about capitalizing on crazy wealth. I feel like there's this group good that's starting to dominate the way we think. I swear it's happening.
It's definitely going to breed those.
Your generation too, they don't care about like, I want to be a billionaire.
Yeah.
They're like, I
You
want to
don't
do
really see
something
that
that
oil
fulfills
tycoon.
me that's good for people.
Yeah.
And that's getting so popular. It's cool.
Minus Drake.
That Texas
Yeah,
oil
minus Drake.
tycoon doesn't
Yeah.
exist.
Drake, if you want to come on, hit us up.
Do it, dude.
We're going to have a decide if Drake's cool or not.
No,
Yeah, no, we'll
there
have
is
to
no
get Sean in
deciding.
here. No, see,
Not for you.
His billion downloads every minute.
it's 2 against 1 on this one because you know how Shane and I feel about Sir Drake.
Well, you named him. You said sir, so you have
Face-
some level of respect.
Face palm.
You basically knighted him.
Can you tell the audience what my face looks like?
You're smiling and you're actually like really giddy.
Yeah, that's totally. Okay, so I'm going to say this then. If you believe in the long term of what you're saying, because I see your point about if I look at my kid, there's no money grab. There's no like, oh my God, I have to have all of this cash.
It's fulfillment grab.
It's
Yeah,
fulfillment grab.
grab.
And she wants to take care of everybody. She wants a sustainable world. She wants everyone to have their fair opportunity. It's like a recapturing of the American dream.
No, there's still a group out there that doesn't believe that, but most people my age know that we can't stop it, right? Global warming and those effects are going to happen no matter what. We can slow it down. We can not add to that effect.
We might be able to control the whole sphere of the Earth eventually, I think.
You think we'll be...
Well, I just feel like with what they can do with like trails and reflection and chemicals, they could maybe decide the heat. Maybe not.
I like how you said trails.
Yeah, that's a tech stretch, but we might be able to control. We might be able to cut down the heat.
Right now, what we know, we can't stop it. We can slow it down. We can't add to it. We can't speed it. We can speed it up, or we can slow it down.
Agreed. Hey,
I'm a big believer that we are very small when it comes to the Earth, and that the Earth will heal itself well before we come to a moment to where we doom the Earth.
Oh, the Earth's got no problem,
Let me
man.
ask you a question. Go ahead.
I just got to throw this thought out. Every time people are like, save the Earth's fucking fine. It's
Yeah.
humanity.
Yeah.
When the Earth decides it's done with us, we're done.
So
They'll be like,
we're
here's
done.
some disease, here's some floods, fuck the human race.
Yeah.
I listened to an interview with Elon Musk and Neil deGrasse Tyson, and they talked about SpaceX traveling to Mars. He said within the next 10 years, we'll have people on Mars.
Whoa.
Convinced.
Yeah, his projections and numbers and graphs.
Yeah. And he hasn't been off so far.
Yeah. But Neil deGrasse Tyson kind of came back with, if we can figure out how to get to Mars, why can't we figure out how to make Earth savable?
Yeah.
Wow.
So what are you guys' feeling? Is it easier to get to Mars and colonize, or is it easier to...
Oh, see, Mars to me isn't colonized. Mars is just like, let's have an adventure and let's find aliens.
We got to do something. We're not going to... We can't live here forever.
I'll give you
I think
my
we
answer.
can live here forever.
Yeah.
We can't.
I'll give you my answer.
Impossible.
One part of it is kind of backing up what Shane's saying. I think we can live here forever. I think we have to have a new mindset of sustainability. I think that's going to come with the way that we manufacture, the way that we produce, the way that we use. Secondly, about Mars, if I'm to answer your question, about going to Mars, I look at it like being a little kid and wanting to go to Australia. I think we should go to Mars to know what the hell is in our neighborhood.
Yeah, me too. It's adventure.
Yeah.
So what if it wasn't Mars? What if it was one of the 7 planets they found
Europa.
that's habitable? I love Europa, by the way.
It's a cool idea.
Yeah,
They found those 7 planets, right? They're habitable.
They did. Then why not do it?
why can't we
That's
do
where
it?
I'm at. Why not?
So
do
it's
it?
just a Mars thing. You don't want to live where there's no oxygen.
No, Mars is not.
I saw Total Recall. Did you see Arnold's face?
His
Hey,
eyeballs.
Matt Damon can do it, guys. We can do it.
You know, I've never seen that.
Let's address the alien in the room
seen it?
No.
with saving the Earth. The alien, the elephant.
Wow,
I know.
dude.
I think way too much about aliens.
well-
Wow, we're taking an alien break.
He did say that Tesla might have been from Venus, and there was that talk in there in
And
a
I-
book written about in the movie.
I've been down the alien rabbit hole lately. But anyway,
Okay.
the elephant in the room, not the alien,
Okay.
is I feel like if we're going to live on this Earth for a long time,
Forever.
we have to address population, and that's a hard one.
Yeah, we can't.
That's what I'm saying. That's the elephant.
That's why we can't live here.
So do we say, do we kid limit? Do we let Earth kind of keep our population in control? That's what I'm saying. You can't live here forever with
you
a
say
population.
that because you have a
growth.
full family and you're good to go.
I have 2 kids.
well,
But wait,
done.
about
the Darwin theory is not going to be in full effect. I mean, there are those that are going to take themselves out of the gene pool that need to take themselves out of the gene pool. I mean, the guy who straps a rocket to the back of a Nova and tries to fly a car, take yourself out of the gene pool.
How do you?
But it's not enough.
How do you dial in by the billion though?
you can't.
Okay. The Earth will take care of us.
Okay.
The Earth will go, hey,
Yeah.
20 billion, that's my number, and I'm just going to keep the rest of you guys killed.
You guys are getting a little out of control. Here's an asteroid here.
Yeah.
And here's
Earth will be fine.
I don't think our ego can handle that. And the only reason let's just look at where we are right now.
What is max capacity? Someone's surely calculated it.
Probably. Let's get Neil on.
Yeah, Neil.
Yeah,
This is a good question for Neil.
We could get Neil on.
I would love to.
Yeah.
We got to figure something out.
Yeah. That's the elephant. There has to be hard decisions made, I think, to be... How many
you
are on this
changed your
spaceship?
tune.
What?
Because you said we could be here forever.
I can. We just have to address the elephant in the room.
Yeah, see, and that's a great way to put it. And so that's a yes and a no, I think, what he's saying.
No, it's a total yes. It's like saying, Mike,
It's not a
here, check
total
this
yes.
out. Let's just talk company.
Okay.
Hey, I've got this company. The company, like, it's getting too big, too bloated. This company can go on, but we have to fire some people.
Okay.
No more hiring. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then you get rid of half your workforce and you can't keep up, and then you go under.
It can be done.
In your defense, they did that in China, where they made limits of how many kids that you can have. We're here in Utah, and there are families that have, 3,000 kids?
Yeah.
6, 8, 10.
I mean,
Yeah.
minimum, right?
Minimum.
Yeah.
3,002. $29.99.
$29.99.
What's weird to think about the whole population thing is me and my wife are like, let's have 2 kids. We'll repopulate ourselves. But the reality is, even if you have 1 kid and he goes off and has a partner and kids,
Yeah.
while you're alive, you created like 8, 10,
Yeah.
12
A
more.
huge
All those
change
strands.
With 1.
Yeah.
All those
So the reality is repopulating yourself is still crazy.
Now
Yeah.
think there are 7 billion people who want to do what you just did with your family.
Whoa.
We're
Okay.
fucked.
Yeah.
We're
So,
fucked.
I feel
the
like
the rate is.
I feel like an asshole. I just kind of like, fuck you guys. I'm having my kids. Figure it out.
I'm taking back that bottle of Jameson. No longer congratulations.
Anti-congrats.
Yep.
So when your Earth fails,
anti-congrats.
just remember this podcast.
We're going somewhere. We're either going to Mars or.
Mason, question for you then.
Yeah.
You do not believe that we can stay here forever.
No.
We have to go find something else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
We
Is that
have
what
to.
happens? So when you're born in the 90s, you just lose all sense of what we
You
can
guys,
fix here.
you can't just buy corn on the cob and you keep eating the same corn on the cob. You have to get a new cob, and
I don't want GMO corn. I want natural corn.
Get this.
At some point, the soil is going to get fucked.
Yeah.
Everything is going to get fucked.
Yeah.
Such a bright topic. Hey, no, I have to just throw this little visual out. Mason is the alien who arrives on a planet and is like, "We need resources," and fucking like, boom, kills the monkey race on
Yeah.
Europa, so he can fucking my generation can live.
I'm the dude who lands on a motherfucking asteroid in cowboy boots with a lasso.
I would really pay good money to see that.
So
No,
I'm
I'm
scared
not.
of the alien that you're gonna be. Like some man's gonna be like, "You monkeys, you're out of here."
I'm not that. I just think that we need to figure something out.
This is awesome.
And Neil deGrasse Tyson and Elon Musk both think we need to get out of here, so
I know that's weird.
I'm
And
with
we
them.
just-
No, Neil deGrasse Tyson doesn't think we need to get out of here. He just thinks that it might be easier to develop the technology to fix what we have going.
I have a conspiracy I could throw out.
We're going to get...
Yeah, do it.
global warming can't be stopped right now.
One more ShaneTrain conspiracy. What if
Okay.
what everything Elon knows, he knows that life has visited here, extraterrestrial life. He just
Maybe.
knows.
Maybe.
And with the people he knows weird stuff is on Mars. And what if in his mind he goes, the powers that be are just locking this down. When I get to Mars, there's no question of, there's been life here, life has stopped. What if he's just going there to open up the dialogue and set us free?
That would make sense.
Wow.
Yeah, because the moon is so much more achievable.
So
When
it'd be
he-
like, you can't control me here. Hey, people on Earth, guess what's up?
Look what we just found.
When he was younger, the reason he got into space travel and everything was he was trying to drum up excitement about NASA and travel. What he wanted to do was send a ship to Mars with some sort of plant and have some sort of liquid that would come out as soon as it landed, and it would feed the plant and it would have life growing on Mars. And it was just to drum up excitement about space travel. So I could see him just trying to build the hype and...
So pretty much
He's got the hype. I saw SpaceX land this weekend on my
Yeah.
phone.
on target.
Facebook Live.
Yeah, I was like,
On target.
Insane. He's going to have ports. It's going to be like train stations. You can hitch a ride.
Wow.
someone just broke into my car.
Yeah.
My
So like
Ferrari.
Starship Troopers then, huh?
Yeah.
I'd be satisfied with a Hyperloop to New York. That'd be
Yeah, it would be good.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to get there. I mean, I don't know why why we wouldn't. I guess, and that's why I asked that question, because I'm in an amazement. I was born in a generation where cars were 3 times as long as they are now, made completely out of steel, gave off a ton of emissions.
No seatbelts.
And no seatbelts.
Just bench seats.
No one gave a
bags.
shit.
For playing on.
Truly did not give a crap.
You're just jousting.
And now my kid, I mean, I have an old 81 Chevy out back. And I bet there's I don't know, I bet she looks at me like, why are you driving that?
Dad's weird.
Yeah, you're ruining the earth, Dad. So I don't know.
Every time you drive that, a whale dies.
Oh God.
A kitten gets killed, probably.
But
Did you hear the hush that you just did?
But the thing is even with, there's kind of this unspoken thing with electric cars.
Yeah.
Electrical cars.
Masonisms.
The batteries that they use in those cars.
There's waste.
And the people who are getting
mines?
the minerals, they're kids.
Yeah.
So
Zero emissions is only while you're using it.
I mean, come on.
So they have to develop the whole chain. Has to be.
And
zero
those
emissions.
mines, the runoff from those mines are pretty nasty.
They're bad. And
So
then,
obviously what we're saying here is there's not one solution. There's not one fix-all. It's going to take a community, and it's going to take the powers that be now to be out of
I mean, we're fucked.
now. I don't see us fucked in the future.
We're always going to be fucked.
Okay.
Oh, I had
No,
another.
we're not.
I had another alien in the room.
Okay.
I don't believe there's this like holy grail of humanity where everyone's just eating well and doing well. I feel like, and I don't know if people are capable of grasping this, and it's just my idea.
Whoa.
I know.
That's kind of
Capable of grasping
humble
my
God,
ideas. But like I really feel like the nature of humanity is some doing good, some doing bad. Like look at nature. Some are growing, some are dying.
You need to have the good or the bad to have the good.
So I wonder if we can stop the good, bad, and go just the ecosystem. Because I feel like there's always going to be prisoners. There's always going to be saviors. There's always going to be poor. There's always going to be rich. There's always going to be happy. There's always going to be. I just feel,
What is that called?
I don't know, but
There's a
I feel
name
like
for it.
I feel like it's real.
Yin yang.
It's not real.
I don't know.
What is that called when you're a something?
Realist.
No, you're not a realist.
A ShaneTrain.
Where you're a dreamer,
ShaneTrain.
like you think that everyone's going to be paradise and everyone's going to eat fresh organic fruit all day, and
Oh, so people don't. I'm just
someone
assuming
out
people
there is
think
going to
that.
have to suffer for.
Yeah. I just feel like we don't have to suffer, but I just feel like the nature of humans are going to be all over the place. There's always going to be a spectrum. There's always going to be ups and downs, winners, losers.
Always a balance.
Exactly.
Always
there
a
has to be.
balance.
Yeah.
You're right. I'm following you.
Okay, so it's not. I just don't. I hope we're not waiting to achieve. I want to look on Facebook and never see starving, never see.
I thought you were on the opposite.
No,
I thought you
no.
were saying that could be real.
No, I'm saying people need to realize no matter what we do, they're going to look at humanity and be sad and happy.
Yeah.
Were you thinking utopia?
Utopia.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I thought you were saying.
No, I'm not a
was-
utopia
okay,
believer.
Yeah,
I wanted to wait for a moment.
I'm saying
Yeah,
everyone
nailed
needs
it.
to realize there's no utopia.
Yeah.
We're just going to keep doing this.
Yeah.
Shit sucks and shit's awesome.
Yeah.
Like forever.
Yeah, both sides.
Well, if you don't experience this shit, then what is awesome?
Exactly.
Well, yeah, see, that's a great way to put it.
It's you don't seek happy like okay, I got perfect. I seek happiness like I seek comfort.
Yeah.
Like I want comfort in my life, but not all the time. Because how do you don't achieve with just all the time comfort? I want happiness like I want that because like I want it a lot of the time, but have true happiness, you have to have sadness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just that whole.
How do you
whatever
know
is.
that peak without the valley?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's one of my favorite sayings is sometimes you have to go through the shit to realize you don't have to go through the shit.
How hard is
Yeah.
it to label like not bad?
Exactly.
Like the worst things in my life were actually awesome, but at the time they were the worst things in my life.
Yeah.
But like anxiety, panic, collapse, mental, like hell, like. But everything worked out just beautiful. You wouldn't trade it for a thing. So if you're in a bad situation, you're sad, you're in hell, realize that it's good.
You are totally onto something
Where
there
you
too. Maybe that could go because we've approached this quite. I don't know how where these episodes are going to lay out. I'm not sure where the listeners are going to pop in and what they're going to hear. But we've talked quite a bit about the push-on factor and like where we have been at our lowest moments and we have been at our peak of anxiety and our lowest of depression. You just nailed it right there perfectly. It's probably the most eloquent that I've heard you be about anxiety and depression. The fact that you had to realize this is the worst moment, which means it could be the best moment.
Yeah.
because I have to get out of this, and I will get out of this.
As deep as you go is as high as you'll go, I feel like.
It's like,
So could that be a new therapy that we could express to people? Own this moment at your worst, because there is an opposite that's allowing you to have this as your worst.
That's what I held on to. I was like, if it can be this bad, it can be that good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I don't know if it worked for me.
There's an awesome message that we're saying to our listeners right now. If you are having that worst moment, let us be little advocates of knowing there is an opposite to that.
Yeah.
As your best.
It's a good takeaway for this episode.
Yeah.
Man, we went down a total tangent that was really enjoyable.
I'm glad the science is cool.
Yeah.
What are you drinking?
Jameson. Oh, yeah. Oh, so if anyone knows anyone I'm assuming there's Jameson factories with like guys in overalls and wooden barrels and shit.
Yeah, that's weird.
Better be.
We haven't seen shipping.
Yeah, that I'm glad you mentioned. So they probably sent us a pallet of Jameson so we can continue mentioning them on season 2. I just think that maybe the bill of lading got messed up.
It's a freight shipment.
Yeah. So hey, Jameson factory. I think something went wrong with the shipment. So whenever a pallet arrives, we will definitely mention you season 2.
I figured it would be here by now.
Me too.
Maybe someone else got it.
It's probably in transit. Is there another ShaneTrain?
I don't know.
We should go knock
Maybe
on our
they
neighbor's
sent
door.
it to like the Lionel Train Company or something.
Lionel.
Lionel. God.
I don't know.
Wow, was that a Thundercat reference? You're an old soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's our sign off.
I think we get out of here. Fuck Edison. You
Yeah, seriously.
money-grubbing.
Well,
Go look into Tesla because Edison.
Amazing guest.
I think Edison is in Tesla's shadow, but
Yeah,
he went to market, man.
shadow.
So look what market does for you.
yeah.
Yeah, but
Phenomenal guest.
Yeah.
fair.
Thanks, Mark.
Phenomenal guest. Yeah, thank you
thanks
very
for
much,
being
Mark. You've helped us with this rabbit hole we just went down.
Killer episode. Hope it doesn't get cut by the shitty committee. And that's the end.
All right.
Bye,
Wow.
people.
We're done.
Bye.